Good morning, Dan and Amy. So Anthony Ciani, listener to our show, a physics professor at U of I.
Show off.
He penned a piece, exactly. Penned a piece. He's incurring into our space. He penned a piece for the American Thinker, and I like what he's done there. You heard a little bit of snippets about the town halls taking place and more to come. The tier party. First we had the Tea Party.
Right.
Now we've got the tier party. Now, I was a little dense earlier in the show. I referred to it as the tear party.
Right, you did.
I was mispronouncing it.
It's the tear because they're crying.
Yes.
And they're still crying.
And Tea Party stood for Taxed Enough Already.
Yeah, Taxed Enough Already is the Tea Party.
And the Tier Party is tantrum at every Republican action. And I think the honorary head of the newly found Tier Party is none other than No Justice, No Peace Maxine, she of California, the Democratic Congresswoman. And it's incredible to me that MSNBC and CNN want to keep putting her on as a spokesman for the quote-unquote resistance or the Tier Party.
They don't have anybody else.
Well, I mean,
who's on the bench?
They better find somebody because I'm not sure that Maxine Waters
is up for the job.
I don't think she's moving a lot of public opinion. Here's Maxine Waters talking about Trump and the Kremlin clan yesterday on MSNBC.
To try to defend this president who is entangled with this Kremlin clan of his while they are all seeking really to get rid of these sanctions that are, placed on Russia because all of them are connected to the oil and gas industry.
That's the cabal and Maxine Waters. Not exactly a Russian policy expert. The last time we visited No Justice, No Peace Maxine, she was complaining about Russia having invaded Korea.
Right.
Not Crimea.
Not Crimea.
Yeah. It's a bit of a difference. Maxine Waters also worried about the Trump-Kremlin clan helping to reconstitute the old Soviet Union.
Can't people see what's going on? Why do you think they hacked into our election? They hacked into the election because they have to make sure that Donald Trump got elected so that he could help them with what I think is a huge deal, not only to lift these sanctions, but to take over, all of these Soviet countries and pull them back into the Soviet Union so that they could have access to all of these resources. It's clear to me. And I just think the American people had better understand what's going on. This is a bunch of scumbags. That's what they are.
Those are very strong words,
organized around making money.
I tell you, I haven't heard a powerful speech about the dangers of totalitarian Soviets since, Winston Churchill. So from Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an Iron Curtain has descended across Maxine Waters' frontal lobe. For more on Russian policy, as well as the war on terror, we're pleased to be joined again by our friend Paul Vallaley. He is a retired U.S. Army Major General. He's chairman for the Center for Security Policy, and he's the co-author of the book Endgame, the Blueprint for Victory in the War on Terror. General, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. The pronunciation is Vallaley.
You know what? I did the same thing last time we had you on. I don't know. I've got a mental block. I think I'm listening to Maxine Waters too much.
That's okay.
3 syllables. Vallaley.
Vallaley.
Vallaley. Yes.
Vallaley. All right.
If
all
you
right,
want me to do the pronunciations,
yeah, exactly.
you just let me know.
Well, General, as I'll call you, thanks so much.
Fine.
Thanks so much for joining us. What about Trump's national security team, particularly now with the addition of a new national security advisor and their posture towards Russia? What's your assessment of some of the furor surrounding the alleged relationships between some members of his security team, including the president himself, and Putin and their approach to Russia?
Well, when you compare the selections for the national security team, even General Mike Flynn, who I know very well, it's certainly a tremendous improvement over what we've had under the Obama administration. Much more professional, much more dedicated background to national security and military strategy. So I think General Mattis is a good pick. The new General McMaster's replacing Flynn certainly is a combat veteran, an armor officer, also an academic, does a lot of writing. And so I think you're going to see you are seeing a much stronger team because we're going to see a more robust military. And in regards to Russia, I'll be leaving for Moscow, by the way, tomorrow to speak over there at the Vallaley conference, so we can talk a little about that if you'd like. Yeah. But this whole thing about Russia is a total myth. It's a diversion. It's made up. There's absolutely no proof. The Russians have distorted and affected, our past elections. I always ask people, when was the last time a Russian attacked an American soldier or armed forces? And they haven't. Yeah, they've buzzed us on the ships with their planes. Of course, we've done the same thing off of their coast with our ships. But this whole thing is just a made-up mythical type thing on the part of the tear-jerkers or the tear babies.
So, General, do you think, it's prudent at this point for President Trump to press the reset button, so to speak, with Russia?
Well, here's what we're proposing. As a matter of fact, I'll propose it when I'm in Moscow at the Vallaley conference beginning on Monday, that I think the best step is to do a Reagan-Gorbachev type meeting in Reykjavik, Iceland. I think that needs to be done because we're not going to solve the problems in the Middle East and Syria, which is tangential to the refugee problem, unless we work with Russia. And we just have to come to that realization. They are the power over there. We've created vacuums all over the Middle East. And, of course, Russia has moved in as well as other countries. So I think the new Secretary of State, General Mattis, who have been overseas for the last week or two, some visits, I think Ellerson's now down in Mexico, that we're going to see a stronger border, more secure system to protect American people under this administration.
Your book is Endgame, The Blueprint for Victory in the War on Terror, is the latest offensive to recapture Mosul from ISIS and essentially try and reinstall, my sense of it, reinstall Iraqi governance of Iraq and prevent, for example, Shia militias from taking over that are potentially surrogates for the Iranians. Is that part of the blueprint for victory?
Well, of course, when we wrote that book, we were talking primarily about that area of Syria and North Korea and Iran. And so we haven't seen nothing but an expansion of what we said in 2004. But when you look at what's happening in Mosul right now, it looks like the Iraqi armed forces, with the assistance of the American forces, air power, as well as our special ops on the ground, as advisors, that we'll probably see Western Mosul taken down within the next week or two. Of course, now we're attacking, as well as the Russians, the headquarters of ISIS, which is in northern Syria, northeast Syria, called Raqqa. And so that'll be the next strong point of ISIS that will be defeated.
Now, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the Syrian war has been going on 6 years now. And do you think eventually we should work with Russia to reconstruct Syria?
Yes, that's the point of my paper that I'm presenting at the Vallaley conference, called the Syrian Renaissance Plan. I think I may have sent a copy of it to you, but I'm not sure. But that basically shows how we establish secure zones. We get a new interim government in, replacing Assad, and we have individuals lined up to do that. And the Russians can make that happen. But basically, we start bringing back all these refugees into secure areas, start having them trained for jobs, manufacturing reestablished, the oil fields reestablished over there. So it's a total 3-page paper. If I didn't send it to you, I'll be happy to, but it explains how we can rebuild Syria.
And you...
and I say we, it's got to be a lot of Arab money, not American money. I'm looking for Arab money over there.
That's
especially the Saudis and Qataris and others to put up the money to rebuild the country.
That's an important point. Also, you suggest that the first order of business is returning refugees who have been displaced and dispersed.
Correct.
And with the importance of that.
Yeah, and the other countries. I mean, look what's coming out of North Africa into Italy and up that route. So the refugee problem not only is Syria, but it's many of those countries over there where they're leaving, going up through Turkey, up to Serbia, Hungary, into Germany and Europe, and then that feeds over into the United States. So it's all tied together. So we've got to work to solve this refugee problem.
He is.
Many of these refugees, these young men, they're not trained, so there's got to be some training skill level schools put in the restoration zones over there in order to train these people for business and manufacturing, high tech. So there's a lot can be done.
He is retired U.S. Army Major General Paul Vallaley.
You got it right.
All right.
Hey, you got it.
Thank you. I can even an old dog can learn a new name. Chairman for the Center of Security Policy, General. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with your presentation in Russia. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.